So we've had a pretty quiet weekend. Bitcoin's traded sideways. We've got that kind of candy cane pattern here in our candles, where we've had an up day, a down day, an up day, a down day, and today's looking like, it's setting up as a modest up day. We're still really trading in a sideways range. The good thing about this sideways range is, if I tidy up my chart, we are holding above moving averages. We're hopefully holding out above, outside of this channel that we're in. And what we really need to do now, when the momentum and time is right, is break out of this a consolidation pattern. So the first thing will be a break of this trend line. We need to watch out because third touches are very often false breaks. I'm hoping that that's what applies here, and we've already had our false break here on the 18th of May, and then we'll have a, but most people would count that as all one touch, and so that we could see some trickery here before we actually get a real break. And so I think that the safe way to say that we've really broken out of this sideways range and we're on our way up, if you take along, is for a daily close above 10,000. And a daily close above 10,000 would be kind of the first really bullish sign. But we are, for me, potentially for the bears, we're almost immediately into some resistance, because there are bears who see this whole thing rally from the December 2018 low as a big correction. And in which case, if you measure this first swing from the lows to the highs in December 2018, and we project it from this low in March 20, then 61.8 of that level comes in here at Deribet at around 10,293. I think against Tether at Binance, it's a little bit higher, like 10,000. I have to make sure I measure it right as well. It's like 10,400. So between sort of 10,300, 10,400, we have pretty major resistance if you think that this is a big ABC correction, because it's very common in these corrections for the third leg to be only 61.8 of the first leg. And when you look at it and you want to know if it's doing that, the daily close is important, because with these levels, you can go just like moving averages, you can have a big push beyond the level, and it's where we close that matters. So if we come back then and close underneath it, that for me would still make me a little bit nervous that we would be setting up a reversal there. Now, does that line up with any big fib levels? If we go from this high to low, it doesn't really. Okay, because we would be above our 61.8 fib level, which is at 10,055. But if we are going to see another leg lower, or potentially this is a retest of these highs, something like that would be quite could be quite a bearish trigger, if we can't make a new high above these highs. So rather than the fibs, this kind of previous high also becomes important. So once we're clear of these two obstacles, though, I don't see anything to stop us at least retesting the highs at 14,000, but my money says much higher from here. So I'm not in the bearish camp, I'm afraid. I think that we've got lots more potential. Now, if we were going to do an equal measured move, that would take us to 14,400. But potentially, I'm just saying, a little bit higher than here. Before we get all too bullish, there is potentially, for me, an important resistance zone that we need to get through if we really are going to get moving. This is one of those kind of levels as well, where even if we were bullish, we might see a move here. For me, what would be really bullish here, if we have to have a pullback, something like a big inverted head and shoulders bottom over the summer, that would be, if we have to do it, that's what I'd be looking for. So that's where I am with Bitcoin this morning. I am expecting one more push higher. I like this consolidation as bullish. We haven't really given anything back. We haven't made a new low, and that's what I'm looking for. So on a break of this trend line high, a push higher, and then let's see what we do when we get to 10,200, 10,500 zone. And I'm going to move on to Ethereum. I'm still long Ethereum, and I've got a profit target in Ethereum of 262. And because of this big level in Bitcoin, which I think is a bit of an obstacle, and because it's such a big level in ETH coming up at 262, for all the same reasons, I am going to take at least half off. I'm going to sell at least half my position at 262, and I'm going to wait and see what happens. And if I go to ETH, I've got a very messy chart, so I'm going to clear it up one by one, but and I'll put them back on again, and we'll look at why. Okay, first off, up here we are potentially already at some important resistance here in Ethereum. If we count the fibs from this swing, and we're at the 786 fib, which would make a Gartley pattern, because if we hide this for a second, and we just look at the fibs from this high to this low, our first swing was to a 61.8, we pull back, and this 786 here, which is a 7.2 extension from this high to low, is a Gartley pattern. So we should already be watching for potentially, it's just like Bitcoin, potentially this is a level where we could reverse that, but I prefer the level a little bit higher at 260. And the reason is, normally if you think that this is an ABC correction, which I do in ETH dollar, you put your fib over both swings, and that makes this the 61.8 level. If I zoom out in Ethereum to the monthly, then you can see that this 262 level is also the 23.6 fib retrace from this bigger high in May 2018. Let me go to the weekly. I'm not explaining that very well. There we go. From this high to this low, this most recent big 5-wave swing that we're still in, this is the 236 fib. It's also a little bit of support and resistance from the closing low here, weekly close. So it's a little bit of a pivot level. Also, I've taken off a few things that hide it, but if this is our first leg and this is our second leg, this would be the 61.8. So let me show you what I mean by that. From here to here to here, you can see that the 61.8, so if we do this next leg, that's also a retest of this 262 level. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why I think potentially we've got room to go a little bit higher before I would have one of those levels where I'd be really kind of watching out for. I'm hoping that we don't stop here. I'm hoping that we continue. If I take that away, take all of this mess off, I'm hoping that this swing, so that's my first kind of real major resistance we have to get through in ETH. But if I measure from this low to this high, you can see that this, if we make an equal measured move, we get to that big 38.2 fib level next at 367. So we need to watch out for a reversal around between 258 and 262. And if we can get through that resistance zone, just like Bitcoin, we're headed for 367.9 next. So